For nearly 2 decades, the AFL has grappled with an inescapable reality in its sport. Some players party as hard off the field as they train and play on it.
The AFL and the game in general realised that there was an illicit drug problem, not only in the community, but it infiltrated into AFL football and sports in general.
As an organisation, the AFL would be very naive to suggest that somehow AFL players are somewhat immune from the social pressures.
To manage the problem, in 2005, the AFL introduced a two-pronged strategy. Its illicit drugs policy allows 3 strikes for players who test positive for drugs like cocaine on non-game days. On the first strike, players remain anonymous. Next comes identification and a 4-game suspension. One more strike could see you rubbed out for 12 matches. But that's a world away from getting caught under the World Anti-Doping Agency code on a game day. Then a positive test for cocaine could get you banned for 4 years.
There's long been talk of players gaming the system, that those taking drugs had a way out to avoid getting caught on game days.
The AFL wants the player to play at all costs, and so the cover-up begins.
Late last month, independent MP Andrew Wilkie used parliamentary privilege to spell out those allegations.
If there are no illegal drugs in the player's system, they are free to play. And if there are drugs in their system, the player is often asked to fake an injury. So, Deputy Speaker, next time you hear a player has a hamstring injury, you could be forgiven for wondering what's really going on.
Here is what happened as has been described to me.
The president of the AFL's Doctors Association described Wilkie's allegations as nonsense.
I think it shows a misunderstanding and an ignorance of just how the illicit drug policy actually works within the AFL. So we're not in the business of feigning injuries, and we would never really coerce a player to do that. We would simply support them should they have an incident that we find out about in confidence, and under the medical model which we operate under, we would then look to instigate some therapy, some intervention for that player, and we would protect that player's health and well-being.
I was actually pretty open to Andrew Wilkie coming out and saying these things because it shone a light on it.
To kickstart Gather Round.
Questions about the integrity of injury reports and the competition are not what the league wanted to be dealing with during its showcase Gather Round in South Australia on the weekend. The AFL CEO says Andrew Wilkie got it wrong.
We assessed what was reported, and then our reaction was, look, I think we need to get out and make sure that the public is educated about our policy and what we're trying to do with it.
Wilkie declined 730's request for an interview, so did the AFL's Players Association.
Hey, I'm the new mascot! The West Coast Eagle! Yeah! Let's play, you guys! Come on! I got the halftime entertainment here, boys!
The AFL's history of players being linked to recreational drugs has at times been a bit of a joke.
That's good shit! Flying high!
In 19 years, only one player, Travis Tuck, has recorded 3 strikes and received a 12-match ban under the illicit drugs policy. The Wilkie allegations have laid bare a split in the league. Club doctors believe the priority should be maintaining patient-doctor confidentiality for players who may have a drug problem, not naming and shaming.
It's all very well to put rules and regulations in place. I think that's important, but I think the medical public health literature would support the fact that that's not going to change some of the complex behavioural issues that we deal with when we're talking about illicit substances.
Other prominent AFL voices believe the desire to protect players was genuine, but former Collingwood president and commentator Eddie McGuire says with drugs now so prevalent in society, there's no longer a need to keep positive tests secret.
The stigma associated with drugs has disappeared. So the thing that was always quite compelling was when a player was caught on a strike at the AFL, the first question inevitably they asked the AFL was, will my mum find out? Right? So things have changed now.
The risk to the credibility of the game is now too great, he says, for the policy to continue as it is.
Heads out of the sand. Let's be grown-ups about this and take a grown-up approach. And I believe there should be punitive action and you should be named. And I think that'll act as a deterrent. But it also means that those particular players can then be given the right guidance and the right rehabilitation.
Andrew Dillon says there's now a discussion underway, and the league's approach to recreational drug testing will change.
Our illicit drugs policy has served the AFL and its players really well for 19 years, and it continues to serve us well. But we also know we're in 2024, we're reviewing the policy, and we now need to do, what we want to do is evolve our policy, our illicit drugs policy, so that it's fit for purpose for 2024 and beyond.
What form the evolution will take isn't clear, but there are hints the new rules will be an adjustment, not a wholesale overhaul.
I think what's important with any policy, regardless of what you're looking at, is I don't think extremes at any level, at either end of the extremes, are what you want. What you want is a balanced policy that looks after the health and interests of our players, but also make sure that, that we're balancing all of the interests of the public as well.
Players' medical confidentiality versus transparency for teams and the public. Not an easy needle for the AFL to thread.